Have you ever followed a lot of so-called healthy habits and still felt worse for it? Well, same. Today, I'm diving into health habits that I've quit and honestly feel better without. I think I'm probably doing this a little bit backwards, like maybe I should do a healthy habits first, but I feel like people cover that. But not many talk about quitting habits that have been around for a while that have always been considered healthy. This isn't about throwing health advice out the window. It's about reminding you to do what works for you, no matter what anyone else says or does. These are things that just didn't work for me. Now, truthfully, because of two breast cancer diagnoses so close together, I'm probably a little more cautious than you need to be. So take all of this for what it's worth and do some research to figure out what habits you have that may not be serving you. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rachel. My goal here is pretty basic, helping you live your healthiest, happiest life in the simplest ways possible by sharing what I've learned and keep learning along the way. If that sounds like your vibe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and give me a follow. And if you've ever ditched a healthy habit and felt better for it, let me know in the comments. Okay, first habit I ditched, fat-free and low-fat everything. Do some of you remember when the whole low-fat, no-fat thing started? Snackwell's cookies, anyone? I bought into it hook, line, and sinker, thinking that I was doing something great for my health. I leaned all the way in. Skim milk, which is one of the grossest beverages, by the way, low-fat cheese, fat-free yogurt, fat-free cookies, fat-free everything. And what did it get me? Honestly, I never felt good. I was always hungry. I was constantly diet and working my butt off at the gym because the second I took a break, the weight would just creep up. Looking back, I think it was the beginning of the obesity and disease epidemic we're seeing today. All of these low-fat products replace fat with sugar or artificial ingredients to keep them tasty. Fat is flavor, and fat is satiating. Eat a serving of full-fat yogurt and a cup of non-fat yogurt and tell me which one fills you up more. Or look at reduced-fat peanut butter as opposed to regular peanut butter. Check the ingredient list and tell me which one you think is healthier. Sometimes I struggle to finish servings of full-fat foods, which can be a really good thing because you eat less, but you're still satisfied. And let's not forget, fat is essential for our hormones, our brain function, and our overall well-being. When I stopped obsessing over low-fat everything and focusing on whole, minimally processed foods, yes, with the full fat in all its glory, I felt fuller, more satisfied, and more energized, and my weight went down naturally. Now that leads me to number 2, cutting out entire food groups. I have tried the whole cut this, cut that thing, and it never worked for me long term. Instead of avoiding entire food groups, I just focus on the quality of my food. Have you ever looked at photos from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even the 70s? People didn't have the same health issues we see today, and the majority of people were not overweight. This goes hand in hand with that ridiculous low-fat craze. People weren't eating diet foods. They weren't cutting out dairy or eliminating carbs. They were just eating real foods because that's mostly what they had. Cutting out entire food groups can lead to nutrient deficiencies, weaken your immune system, and even contribute to eating disorders. Now, I am not here to bash what works for anyone else. I'm just saying what works for me. I aim to eat a variety of wholesome foods, and it has made a huge difference in my health and my happiness. Since I stopped restricting myself, I am seldom hungry. I rarely overeat or just feel gross from the food that I have eaten. I have more energy, and my weight pretty much stays consistent now, no matter what I eat. And speaking of my weight, the third thing I have quit is weighing myself. The scale was my enemy for years. I would weigh myself constantly, only to stress over the number. I was obsessed, and it was ridiculous. Home scales cannot differentiate between fat, muscle, or water weight. Even when I go to the doctor now, I turn my back and ask them not to tell me the number. I have had nurses say things like, "Wow, you don't look like you weigh that much." Excuse me? Comments like that can wreak havoc on self-image. Weighing yourself frequently leads to worry, stress, and anxiety about your weight. And not reaching your weight goals leads to self-criticism, negative self-talk, and overall a lot more depressed mood. In my opinion, focusing on the number on the scale reinforces unrealistic expectations about body image and weight loss. That number on the scale can be pretty deceiving. Muscle is denser than fat, meaning it takes up less space in your body, so you can weigh more and still look smaller. So if you are regularly exercising, strength training, and eating well, stop obsessing over the number on the scale. Could I stand to lose a few pounds? Probably, but I'm not worrying about it. Instead, I pay attention to how I feel, how my clothes fit, and my energy levels. It's actually kind of liberating. Number 4, sanitizing everything. Manufacturers went overboard with antibacterial everything. Killing all the germs might sound good in theory, but it's actually harmful. I stopped using antibacterial anything a few years ago, and I quit with the over-sanitizing everything. Everyday bacteria and germs that we encounter help build our immune systems. When I was a kid, we played in the dirt, and yes, we really did drink out of the hose. We weren't so obsessed with germs, and we were healthier for it. Now, we sanitize everything, even our laundry. When did just doing laundry cease to be enough? Over-sanitizing can hurt us in 3 key ways. Killing all bacteria, good and bad, weakens your microbiome health. Leftover germs adapt to disinfectants, creating superbugs. And chemical disinfectants are toxic and linked to chronic health issues, weakening the very immune system we rely on. It is possible to be too hygienic. Did you know that research shows that kids raised in extremely clean environments are more likely to develop allergies, asthma, and allergic skin conditions? Their immune systems aren't sufficiently primed through exposure to germs and certain infections. Doctors call it the hygiene hypothesis. We think of all viruses and bacteria as bad, when really we have kind of a symbiotic relationship with them. Exposure to germs and viruses, even a regular cold, annoying as they are, help build our immune system. So when something worse comes along, our bodies are somewhat prepared for them. You cannot kill every germ, and the ones you don't kill just adapt and get stronger. I'm not saying I don't wash my hands or my counters because, ew, but most of the time, soap and water work just fine. I remember realizing during the pandemic how many people don't actually wash their hands, and I was thinking at the time, I may never shake a hand again. That said, we don't need to go overboard. I stick to natural cleaners or, like I said, good old-fashioned soap and water. I've noticed fewer skin issues, and I feel better overall. And knock on wood, I rarely get sick, other than, breast cancer, but I've always been a go big or go home kind of girl, Cold, flu, or even COVID, though, rarely. Okay, the 5th thing I've given up is diet soda. We all know that soda is bad for us, right? All that sugar. So what do we do instead? Diet soda, of course. No sugar, so it's basically flavored water, right? I was addicted to diet soda for a long time. I would go through cases of Diet Dr. Pepper or Diet Pepsi each week, thinking that I was doing myself a favor by avoiding all the calories and sugar. But diet sodas are packed with artificial sweeteners, which can actually increase sugar cravings, disrupt the gut microbiome, and even impact weight gain in the long run. When I quit, it was cold turkey. And can we talk about the withdrawal headaches? Oh my God. But once I finally quit, I started craving less sugar and felt better overall. Now, on the rare occasion that I do want a Dr. Pepper, I get a Dr. Pepper, full sugar, because if I'm doing it, I may as well enjoy the real thing. No, it's not better, because it's still a sugar bomb, but I rarely, and I mean rarely, drink it. So why deprive myself on those occasions? The 6th thing I've given up are smoothies. Smoothies are often seen as the epitome of health, but they just don't work for me. They never fill me up. And by the time I add enough protein, fat, and fiber to make them balanced, they are just calorie bombs, and they still don't fill me up. They're a great way to get adequate fruits and veggies, yes, but drinking my calories just does not trigger the same fullness for me as chewing my food. You still get the fiber from whole foods, but the blender has basically done the chewing for you. So your body does not have to work as hard to digest it. And your brain often doesn't get the signal as quickly as it should, telling you that you're full. So while smoothies are convenient and nutrient-packed for some, I prefer whole foods that keep me full longer. I'll enjoy one occasionally, but it is not a staple in my routine anymore. Number 7, plant-based meat alternatives. We are always told to eat less red meat. So I used to eat meat alternatives to cut back. You know the ones I'm talking about: burgers, sausages, ground meat for tacos. But have you ever seen the prices of that stuff? Or more importantly, read those ingredient labels? Most of them are so processed they barely resemble food, even if they do have a lot of protein. I prefer to stick to the real thing. One ingredient, my body feels better for it, and I am getting all the nutrients I need. Now, if you are vegan or vegetarian, I get it, but I really don't think that you're doing yourself any favors with those things. But again, that is just my opinion. Number 8, trying to be positive all the time. I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little bit here from what I've said before, but not really. When you're having a really bad day and someone tells you to just be positive or look on the bright side, and you just want to throat punch them, don't get me wrong. A positive attitude is essential, yes, but sometimes you need to get the anger or the frustration out of the way and wallow for a little bit before you can look on the bright side. After both my cancer diagnoses, I heard it all. Stay positive. You need to be positive. Everything happens for a reason. Well-meaning phrases that made me feel like I couldn't express my anger or my frustration. Optimism is great, but it is actually okay to not be okay. People kept telling me how proud they were of me for being so positive, but I don't think I was positive all the time. I was optimistic, yes. I looked for something to be grateful for every day, yes. But I also acknowledged my sadness and my anger. When your response to someone having a horrible day or week or year is always, look on the bright side, chin up, be positive, you're kind of invalidating what they're feeling. And you get to the point where people are not telling you the truth about how they are actually feeling. And that is never a good thing. There's a thing called toxic positivity, and it's very different from overall everyday positivity. It can lead to minimizing or just flat out dismissing real experience and emotions. Toxic positivity refers to maintaining a consistently positive and sometimes unrealistic outlook, no matter how bad a situation is. It is not the same thing as being in denial or shock over a situation. It doesn't take into account all the emotions a person is feeling, and that's not just frustrating. It completely dismisses what we're actually feeling. You can still be positive and face the realities of the situation. In fact, you need to. Trust me here, for your friends or your family in the future, it is healthier to validate their feelings than to diminish them with cliches. Instead, just say, I'm sorry, I'm here for you. Or just end it at, I'm sorry, or I'm here for you. It's much more supportive and it does not invalidate anyone's feelings. Okay, the 9th thing I have given up is alcohol in moderation. You've heard it. Alcohol in moderation is good for you. It's good for your heart. It lowers your risk of mortality, diabetes, dementia. It reduces stress and increases happiness. As a Gen Xer, alcohol was a social norm. We didn't have a whole lot else to do back then. I admit it. I started drinking in high school. Not proud of it, but I did. Boone's Farm, anyone? Or Mad Dog? Everclear Punch straight out of a bathtub? As I got older, my taste improved, thank God, but it was to the point where once I was of age to go to a bar, that was what we did for fun, always. Happy hour after work, and the weekends, everything we did involved cocktails. Even if I wasn't drinking much, I was still drinking. It was normal to me. Now, I grew up in a house where my parents had martinis nightly after work, so I thought that was what you did. Now, granted, they had 9 kids, so maybe that had something to do with the need for martinis. But the older I got, the less I enjoyed it. I stopped drinking nearly as much when my kids were born, and I was always just a social drinker anyway when we'd go out with friends. but I got to the point where alcohol never made me feel good. My head would get stuffed up. Wine would give me hot flashes. Beer would make me lose my voice. And eventually I realized I probably have an intolerance. And now, study after study shows that no amount of alcohol is healthy. The Surgeon General even recently suggested a warning label on all alcohol. Alcohol consumption is the third leading preventable cause of cancer in the United States after tobacco and obesity, increasing the risk for at least 7 types of cancer, including breast cancer. Having been there twice, I don't want to take any more chances. Plus, studies now show that how alcohol has a negative impact on weight, the gut microbiome, and overall health. Cutting back or just skipping it altogether has been a game changer for my energy, my mood, sleep, and well-being. I used to feel like I'd be somehow a buzzkill if I didn't drink when I went out, or people would somehow think less of me. What a crock. I drank, I guess, to fit in, but now I don't drink for me without worrying what other people think. And I have just as much fun when I'm out as I did before. The last healthy habit I quit is following too many food and fitness influencers. After my first diagnosis, and especially after my second, I jumped into following a ton of influencers on social media, alongside the books and podcasts I was reading for advice and opinions as to what I should and shouldn't be eating. I know, but it was a really stressful time for me, and I was looking for anything and everything to help me out. I was initially feeling kind of desperate and lost, so I bought into all of it. At first, it was great. It taught me a lot about reading labels and paying attention to what I was buying, and it inspired me to do a lot of my own research. But over time, I realized that a lot of the advice was kind of instilling a fear over food. I found myself going overboard, and I saw how easily some of these people could lead people, myself included, into disordered eating. Don't get me wrong, some of them are really good, but some of them can be so convincing and so passionate that many people take everything that they say as gospel. I am not saying influencers don't help people. They do, to a point. But I had to step back, think and research for myself, and make my own decisions. The lesson? Use all the advice, including what I am saying today, as a starting point, but do your own research. Learn to read labels. Find out what works for you. Consider what someone's motives are. Are they pushing sponsorships or a book or their own products? Food and dietary habits are not one size fits all. I am the only one prioritizing me, and I need to keep doing that. Quitting these healthy habits has been one of the best decisions I have made for my physical and mental health. Remember, what works for me might not work for you, and that is okay. If something isn't serving you, though, don't be afraid to reevaluate. Let me know in the comments, what's a health habit that you have quit that has made your life better? Thanks for watching. As always, take care of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.